How much money do you actually need to move to Banff? This is a question Tristan and I got so much when we first moved over here, and it was something that we researched so much before we moved as well, because it's the most important thing, really. We need to have money to come and do these experiences. So today I'm going to sit down with you and go through a few expenses that you're going to have to incur before you even get on a plane to get over here, and then how much money would be ideal for you to move over with. So we're going to go through a few scenarios for different budget levels, so hopefully you can find something that fits for you and resonates for your situation. So to start, let's talk about the expenses that you're going to have before you even are getting over to Canada. So if you're just thinking about maybe potentially making this move, these are things that you're going to have to sort out and pay for before you leave the country. First of all is your visa. So your visa expenses are going to cost you about $350. Now that covers your International Experience Canada fee, which is $161. Then your open work permit holder fee, which is $100. And then if you have to go do your biometrics, which if you haven't done them before, you will have to, is another $85. So that alone will cost you approximately 350 Canadian dollars. Now, if you're coming over from Australia, Canadian to Australian is very similar. So prices are pretty comparable, which is a really handy thing. Next, you're gonna need flights over here. So if you're coming on a one-way flight, I would budget around $1,500. I know when we came over in 2021, we paid $1,300 for a one-way flight. So anywhere around that, $1.5K mark should be a good starting point. If you're looking at a return though, you're probably gonna wanna budget more like $2,500. Next up is you're going to need insurance. So to actually be granted your 2-year visa at the border, you have to prove that you have a 2-year insurance policy to cover your stay in Canada. Now that can be in the form of a continuous 24-month policy, or it can be in the form of 2 1-year policies. Now we got a 2-year policy through Covermore, and the Working Holiday Club helped us with that. We paid $2,600 for the 2 years. It is a worldwide policy, so it's covered all the other trips we've done as well. And we really recommend Covermore. We've had no issues with them. I've even had a claim and the process was really seamless. So with those 3 things alone, not taking into account anything else, before you even leave Oz, you are looking at approximately $4,500 to $5,500 in expenses. Now, one optional extra thing you might be interested in is going through a company as well. So Tristan and I went through the Working Holiday Club. We did ours all back in COVID, so things were slightly different and pricing was a bit different. But looking online, there is programs like Working Holiday Club, Global Work Travel, CCUSA. They're all amazing at helping you get over here and get jobs and helping with the visa process. Now, it is not mandatory to go with a company. Everything they do, you can do yourself. It just depends on what level of support you want going into this experience. A lot of the companies, looking online, were approximately like $1,000 to $1,500 extra you'll have to budget to go through them. In saying that though, I found the best part about going through the Working Holiday Club was the assistance they gave us with our visa process. Now, getting a visa can be pretty daunting, and they gave us a step-by-step manual that was super, super easy. It made the process so seamless when we were busy trying to organize the rest of our lives. And I've seen that they have a Kickstart program, which is only $250, and they will help you get your visa. So you still have to do your job and accommodation yourself, which is totally doable, but they will help with that if you want that support as well. Now, those expenses will apply to everyone, regardless of what lifestyle you want to live when you get here, or whether you are going straight to work or traveling, you're gonna have to incur those costs. So that is your automatic starting, you need to have this much money. Now, in this next part of the video, we're going to talk about how much money would be ideal to bring over to Canada. Depending on what type of experience you want to have when you come over here is going to depend on what amount of money you bring with you. So I'm going to start with the budget option. So if you want to get over here and your plan is to get straight into work and you don't have that much already saved, these are the things that you would need to plan for. So baseline, you have to have $2,500 Canadian dollars in your account to be granted your visa. So you have to show those proof of funds at the border. So that is your minimum. Now, if you are coming over on a one-way flight, you need to have enough emergency money, obviously, to get home. At least budgeting another $1,500 for a flight home. On top of that, if you're coming over and you're going straight into work, you are going to need a little bit of money for the first few weeks. I would recommend having at least $1,000 for that if possible. If you're going into a staff accommodation or housing over here, there's a very good chance you might need to buy some things. You know, we moved into our staff accom and we didn't have any bedding, any cookware, anything like that. So we had to go out, and I think we spent about $500 at Walmart fitting out our place. So those expenses are definitely something to be aware of. You can definitely do it cheaper than we did back then. But yeah, definitely need some money for the first few weeks before you start getting paid. On top of that, it's a really good idea to have a little bit of buffer money for whatever type of accommodation you're going into. Now, if you're going into staff accommodation, it's going to be cheaper. And I don't think you should have to pay any money up front. I can't remember if we did, but I would recommend maybe having another $500 to $1,000 as backup for a damage deposit. I know we had to put a $200 damage deposit on our staff accom. I just can't remember if they took it out of our pay or not. Or extra money just in case, you get sick and they don't have enough money to take out of your paycheck. Because when you're living in staff accom, you're not directly paying for it, they're just taking it out of the money that you're earning. But if you don't earn enough for some reason or another, you will need to pay that back. So having a buffer of about $500 to $1,000 is probably a good start. Now, if you're moving into your own place, rent is probably going to be a bit higher for you. I would say anywhere between like $700 to $1,200 is what you're probably looking at to get a room in Banff. And you are going to need to pay first month's rent and damage deposit straight away. So whatever your room cost is, you're going to have to pay double that in the first month. So based on that, I would recommend probably, $1.5 to $2.5 at least. Based on those figures, if you are coming over on a budget and you are getting straight into work, I think you can get away with having between $3 and $5,000. Now that is on the lower end of the scale, but totally doable if you want to get over here and get into work, especially if you're coming from Australia. Once you're here and you've kind of gone through that initial setup, pricing of things is very comparable. So just look at what you would spend at home. Pretty comparable to by the time you're here and you've paid those initial expenses. So yeah, $3 to $5K is our baseline. So if you're looking at that, if you're looking at your startup costs and your baseline, if you haven't even started this process yet, I would say $10,000 is probably a good amount to start aiming for. If you want to come over here and you want to do a bit of travel first, or you want to get straight into work, but you want to go and travel for a bit, while you're over here as well, I would say coming over with between $5,000 and $10,000 spending money would put you in a more comfortable position to be able to do so. Now, we came over with a bit more money, and that gave us the liberty to spend a few weeks traveling before we started work, and gave us the comfort and flexibility to take time off and go on weekend trips or weeks away as well. Now, if you're coming over and you want to add a car into your situation over in Canada, that's going to be another expense that you're going to have to add into these figures. Our first policy in BC was $3,500. We ended up swapping to Alberta before that policy was up, so we got a lot of that refunded, but then we did have to pay just over $3,000 in Alberta, and now our second year in Alberta, we're paying just under that $2,200 for the year. So that is something really worth budgeting for. It might be completely different based on your personal situation or history, but that has been our experience so far. On top of that, you're going to have the cost of buying the car. Now that is a very personal figure about what you are prepared to spend and what you want to spend. You can definitely get cheaper cars over here. People are coming and going all the time, and there are vehicles, that are a bit older and have those higher mileages that flip for quite a low amount of money. Otherwise, you can buy a car for the same amount you would at home. So whatever you are prepared to spend on a car, make sure you have that money as well. For us, we ended up going with a higher end car. If you've been with us for a while, you know that we're on our third car in Canada. So we have tried to go with the cheaper options, but we did lose a lot of money in those. So for us now, the trade-off is that we bought a more expensive car, but we don't have any kind of fear of breaking down or, ongoing maintenance costs above the norm. So really depends on what you want to have coming into this as well, but I would budget at least about $3,500 for insurance and registration if you're kind of in a similar position to us. And then make sure you have extra money just in case, that car does break down and you have to deal with it. You're also going to need roadside assistance, which is about $100 a year, and then the cost of the car. So it is a bit more, but I do really love having a car. A few more expenses that are worth considering is that if you're coming for a snow season and you don't have snow gear, you're going to need to buy it. So you can get secondhand used snow gear over here for pretty cheap, maybe $500, maybe a bit more. But you can come and you can buy secondhand stuff. Or if you're going to buy a full new setup, you're looking at potentially up to like $2,500. So I know before we came over, I bought my board, my bindings, my boots. My board alone was $1,000, which was a lot. I would recommend waiting until you get to Canada to buy a board. Learn from my mistake. But yeah, boards are expensive. I think even here, they're like maybe $600, $700 on average. I could be wrong. But boards and then bindings are hundreds of dollars, and boots are a couple $100, and then jackets and bibs, and it all adds up. So make sure you have money for snow gear. Look into secondhand if you are on a budget. It is definitely worth it, especially in a town like this where people are coming and going all the time. And another thing as well is if you're not working in a ski resort, you're going to need money for a snow pass. So if you're coming to Banff and you want to buy, say, a big 3-season pass, that alone is about $2,200, which is a lot. If you're going to buy just an individual resort pass like Sunshine or Lake Louise, those are a bit cheaper. They do have payment plans as well, so once you're working, you can pay them off over time a little bit too. But it is a big expense and it's things to be prepared for, especially if you're coming for that winter experience. Overall, if you want to come and you want to travel and you want to live, a completely unrestricted lifestyle and have a car, anywhere between like $10,000 and $20,000 of spending money is going to probably put you in the most comfortable position. Tristan and I came over with a decent amount of money, and we're still in a position where we haven't really had to say no to things. We do still work over here a lot, but it is a lot harder to save. We have found with the lower wages and the different working culture, it can be a lot harder. But we have still, we came over with about 20 and still have not used it all. And that includes buying a car, although our expenses have been split between the both of us, which definitely helps. But we also lost about $5,000 each on one of our cars. So anything, up in that range is going to put you in a super, super comfortable position. But if you don't have the money and you just want to get over here, those figures from the start of the video are definitely going to help you out the most, and you will be able to come and do it. Now, everything discussed in this video is clearly just my opinion. I've chatted to Tristan and friends around town as well to hopefully try and gather some more information to make this as relevant for you as possible. But you're going to have to make a judgment call at the end and figure out, what kind of bracket you fit in, what experience you want to have coming over here. If you want to just work and then try and live off that money, if you want to travel and have freedom, it all comes down to your personal situation. But I know financial discussions are super, super helpful, and you need people to just give you figures so you have something to start with. So hopefully that video has helped you with that today. So that brings us to the end of the video. If you have stuck with me for this long, thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions about anything I've said in the video or any of the figures, please feel free to put it in the comments box down below and I will get back to you as quick as I can. Otherwise, I'm going to link a couple of our older Q&A videos up here at the end of the video. These will help you if you have other questions about the visa process or what life in Banff is like and things like that. Finally, please don't forget to like and subscribe and share. These things are all really important, and it helps us figure out if this is the content that you guys want to see, and it helps us build our channel and help more people as well. So other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for being here. Bye.